Now, I'm going to be advocating moving cones and bees. I know there's some of the inspectors here who might advise you not to. We're not disagreeing at all, but I think we'll all agree that disease is an issue if beekeepers don't manage it. So what you need to be doing, of course, is be able to recognise the disease and deal with it. But simply assuming you won't get it if you don't move cones around is, I think, a bit false. So always be on the lookout for disease. You don't have to be paranoid about it. Just look as part of your normal inspections. So I really don't think you can keep bees efficiently if you don't do some sort of moving about. There was a question immediately before the break. If you've got a queen cell on a comb, can you move it with a comb? Yes, of course you can. You know, there is a risk of disease. If you've got foul brood, you're going to spread it whatever you do. So remember, if you've got a queen in a nuke, if it's in the right condition, it could build up quicker. But on the other hand, if you perhaps make a nuke up, a 5-frame nuke, let's say 2 frames of food and 2 or 3 frames of sealed brood, if you put a queen in there, ain't been anywhere for the lay. So you need to be sensible about it. Remember what I said this morning about observation. Have a look, see about it. This isn't very often written down, but when one frame of brood, when it emerges, you get 3 frames of bees. Don't believe me, just check it out yourself. But this is something that I think should be taught an awful lot more than it actually is. Also, 1 frame of food can become 1 frame of brood in 3 weeks as well, because I think it takes roughly the contents of a cell to produce a cell of bee. That's only observational guesswork, really. After mid-July, any brood you got probably won't collect honey, so you could use it for other things, such as bolstering like eggs. There's all sorts of little things like that don't get written down that you can work out yourself. Right, nuke boxes. What have we got? We've got poly nukes which have come in probably in the last 20 years. I have to say, when they first came in, I thought, fuck, these are brilliant. They felt quite light, relatively cheap, but then I found a few problems with it. Yes, they are cheap, but I don't think overall they're going to last very long. They are readily available. You can just order them today, and tomorrow they'll turn up with a carrier or something like that. You haven't got to make them. However, the ones I've seen and used, I think they're very soft. They're not the density of poly that we're often told we need, and they're actually very easily damaged. Those I've seen certainly need painting. I've been the auctioneer at West Sussex Auction for, I'm told, about 30 years, and I see quite a lot starting to come in. Some of them I know are no more than 4 or 5 years old. They just crumble. But if you paint them, they will last quite a bit longer, but they're still not long lasting like wooden ones. Some of them I think are poorly designed. There's a couple of problems that I see. One of them, there's a flat area where the frame goes, so what do they do? The bees do it, populise all the way around. You then go to move the frame and you lift up bits of the material. Also, I think they're too deep inside. So what you end up with is when the nuke builds up, starts filling up the box, they start building comb underneath the frame, and some of them are sort of inch and a half frame. What's still the ventilation hole for the screen in the bottom is depressed. So what you end up with is that sort of situation. But if you use them, folks, you know what the problems are. I find them difficult to clean propolis off. You can't just get a high tool, scrape them off like you can a wooden one, because of course it rips polystyrene apart. And I just haven't got the time to fiddle around like some people do with greasing things up with Vaseline and that sort of thing. The wooden ones, I'm afraid they are my favourite, although, as I said, I thought the polyhides were going to be really good. They're nice and easy and cheap to make. I've got 14 of these. The drawing forms on Cushman's website. Everything has come out of skips. Builder skips, carpenter skips or whatever. So they cost me nothing, and probably even the nails are second hand. So, for those with small numbers of colonies, you might perhaps make up the increase in a slightly different way. Well, the artificial swarm is one way of doing that. You only want small numbers, and of course the great thing is you've got increase, instant increase. Now it's done reasonably early. You can have honey as well. Perhaps not quite as much as you would normally expect, but that might depend on the flow, all sorts of things. So you've got something, so if you've got 2 or 3 hives and you want to get up 4 or 5, it suits 2 purposes. Now you may have to wait for the bees to decide when, because of course you need queen cells. Other than that, probably what you could do is induce queen cells by emergency methods, that's what I've already told you. This is really simple for small numbers. Of course, once you get up to 10, 15, 20 colonies, these sort of methods are not easy to use. Simple splitting is another way, so perhaps you've got a couple of colonies. You take bees and combs from one colony only. The variation on that is to take bees and combs from 3 or more colonies, because don't forget, 2 colonies very often fight, 3 colonies don't. But if you do think you've got a problem, just take the nuke box, bang it down on the ground really hard 2 or 3 times, and you get over that problem. What are you laughing for? It works, but you won't find it in a book. Just bang them on the ground. Now, you can take bees food from 3 or more colonies. You can also take food from either those colonies or the brood chamber that's being used as a super. Now, something like that you could probably do every 1 or 2 weeks, because most farm colonies in the summer can lose a frame of brood. You don't have to lose a frame of bees, but that's taking a bit beyond today. There's the one that I like. I've used it for over 40 years. I regularly get told that a 2-frame nuke is no good because it's not strong enough. But as I go through, I'll tell you what happens, and then you make up your own mind if it's strong enough or not. But this works. If it works brilliantly. And this is on Cushman's website, I know that. So, what you do is you take a frame of food. Sorry. Could come from the brood chamber of any of your colonies, or brood chamber or soup, it doesn't really matter. Next to it, you put a frame of largely sealed brood with adhering bees. I say largely sealed brood, I'll talk about why I use sealed brood a little bit later on. Make sure it's got plenty of bees in like that. When you're making up a nuke, and you want to keep it at home, just take a frame like that, have a look down the face of it. If you see lots of little grey bodies, you've got some young bees. That lot ain't going to fly home. If you've got no young bees, the chances are they might. So you need to be a little bit careful, because what you don't want to do is make these dukes weak. So, if you're using it at home, you need to chuck some young bees in there. I know there are ways we're told to do it, add extra bees or lightly shake frame or whatever. Problem is, these are not always easy to use, and you've got to make sure there's young bees on there in the first place. There's no point shaking in 3 frames of old bees. You need to look at actually what's on there. The alternative, of course, is to take that news 3 miles away, in which case forget the young bees, because you've already got enough in there, because that lot will keep that lot going, no trouble at all. If you take them 3 miles away, they're not going to fly home. Right, then you fill up a drawn comb. Where do you get your drawn comb from? That is nice and economical on bees. Early in the season, most strong colonies can afford that amount. Not only that, you may well be helping with potential swarming property, maybe reducing the swarming issues. Right, now you need to manage it. So if you're in a queen cell, again, either leave it a few hours or protect it. Doesn't matter, it's up to you. If you're a beginner, quite frankly, I'll protect them anyway. Just be safe. Check emergence. Don't forget, when a queen emerges, it takes her about 5 days to sexually mature. Then if the weather's fine, she might possibly go out. So, if after she emerges, within the next 3 days, just go through, make sure you see her, make sure she's got all her wings. Otherwise, you're just wasting time. If she hasn't got any wings, just nip her out at that point and put it in another queen cell. One thing I didn't mention when I mentioned the problem with queens emerging with deformed wings, sometimes you get a full wing and it's like creased. They're no good, they don't fly either. Right, now you allow it to expand. Now think what's happening. This is where your lateral thinking comes in. Right, that frame there, when you put it in, was largely sealed. So, within perhaps 10 or 12 days, that's all going to emerge. Put a queen cell in, it's probably got 2 days to go, let's say, before emergence. So 2 days, 5 days to sexually mature. After getting mated, it takes them about 3 days to start laying. So, if the weather's fine, once all of that lot is emerged, the queen is coming back mated, she can lay in there straight away. She's also got these other 4 combs. What was already on that frame, plus the 3 frames worth of bees that is emerged from there, is filling all this lot up. Right, simple mathematics, okay? How long does it take the queen to lay up a pretty standard frame? About a couple of days. So back she comes, and she's not going to do this quite frame-wise. She don't lay up one frame, then another. So she comes back, starts laying. In 2 days she's laid that one. In another 2 days she's laid that one. Another 2 days she's laid that one. Another 2 days she's laid that one. A week, or perhaps 10 days at the most, she's laid up all of that lot. Okay? Are you thinking? Are you working out what's happening? Sure? Right. 21 days to 23 days after she comes back, you're ending up with an extra 3 frames of bees. 2 days later, another 3 frames of bees. 2 days later, another 3 frames, and 2 days after that, another 3 days. This is where you've got to be looking at what you've got inside a hive, what's going to happen, because all of a sudden, within a week, or just over a week, you've gone from a little nuke to enough bees to fill a full box. And if anybody's ever told you that a nuke won't swarm, forget everything else that person ever tells you. Forget it. Because they jolly well can. And these things, I tell you, if everything goes right, that's what happens. Now, they can go wrong. Why can they go wrong? Firstly, if the queen doesn't start laying for whatever reason, what do? You take one of these frames out, put in another frame of sealed brood without the bees, and a queen cell. You put a queen cell in almost straight away, and all you do is put everything back about 2 or 3 weeks, something. That's all you do. That's one problem. The other problem is, when you put these frames in, they're empty. This one, over the next 10 days or so, will be empty. So you end up with 4 empty combs. If you've got a nectar flow on and no laying queens, they fill this up, and I can tell you they can fill it up jam-packed full. So what do? There's nowhere for the queen to lay. And don't forget, there's no brood, so they're not using food. They're storing absolutely everything. Right, what you do is take 3 frames out, shake them off. Take those 3 out, because they haven't any brood in. Shake them all off, put them in a brood chamber above a queen excluder, for the other bees to finish them off if they need sealing. Fill them up with empty comb again, and away you go. Nice and easy, isn't it? Why people say that this is such a daft method, I've absolutely no idea. It works, and it works absolutely fine. And now I've sort of publicised it, several people are starting to use this, and they find out exactly the same as me, it works an absolute dream. Probably better than a normal nuke does. So, I've got to tell you how good it is, because it actually is. But of course you need to check for food and space, because small colonies are very, very vulnerable. One, I just told you, you get a week's good weather and they can absolutely fill it up with food. On the other hand, a week's bad weather, especially if you've got young brood in there, they can be on the point of starvation. So you need to be checking up very quickly. I've used it, and it works an absolute treat. Anybody else use it? Right. Well, give it a go, give it a crack. Now, subsequent management. You need to inspect fairly regularly, because you need to work out what's happening, and not only that, think what's happening in a few days' time, a week's time. Add drawn comb if possible, rather than foundation. Transfer the full hive before you actually need to do it. But if you do that, you narrow the entrance. Make sure you put the bees right by the entrance, because if you put them over to one side and the entrance is in the middle, you can leave the bees a little bit vulnerable if the weather goes poor to robbing. Right, you can repeat that throughout the season, even on the same colony, because they will recover quite quick. Put a frame off, drawn comb in a colony, 2 weeks or less, you can go and do the same thing again. Now, of course, the great thing is you must have worked out that within about 6 weeks you split these up, you've got 2 5-frame nukes. So easy, so simple. Great thing about them, they can also provide brood or food for other nukes. You can change positions with other nukes as well, so perhaps instead of adding extra bees to stop some flying home, the next round you do, put in that position and then move that nuke away. So you've got the flying bees from that nuke, coming back. If you have got a half-decent season, you may not be able to, may not need to feed it in the autumn either, because of course they're not putting anything in the supers, put it on the brood box, so you've ended up with a full colony. It's cost you nothing. Cost you nothing. Low cost. If you come early enough, they should overwinter, no problem at all. Now, for those with more colonies, you could use any of the previous options if you want to, and there are many, many other methods of making up nukes. And everybody that's in here has probably got their own favourite, which might be different than somebody else. But if you've got more, you may have more queen cells available. Perhaps you'll do it in an artificial way. Perhaps in some sort of queen breeding program or something like that. Now this one I did give my name to. So, Carl, yeah, we're okay, Carl, you're all right now. I'm calling this a Roger Patterson method because I've been using it myself in various forms since the 1970s. And really what it is a collection of methods, and all I've done is just put them together, and I'll just put my name to it for identification purposes. Now, certainly for a beekeeping association or a bigger beekeeper's point of view, you can actually make a rapid increase during the summer on this. Up to tenfold, certainly this part of the country, at least tenfold. With a bit of cheating, and I'll tell you what the cheating is later on, so I'll be absolutely honest with you, I don't think it's cheating, but some people might. Now you need your own comb, but we know where to get that from. We don't have to go on eBay anymore because we've got it in the box above. You clearly need queen cells, and when you're doing something like this, you need queen cells in the right stage at the right time if you can get them. What I'm going to tell you really should be done on a good flying day with perhaps 2 hours or more of flying left. Now, I'm going to tell you the way to get quite a lot of nukes out of one colony. You can scale it down to suit yourself, so if you only want half a number of nukes, you can scale it down. But I think you'll find the method very flexible. And this is what it is. Everything's in plan view, so you build up a full colony in the spring. We're calling it colony A, but it's got nothing to do with group A like we spoke about, or what I spoke about earlier. Now it must be strong. Just because it's got a few bees in there and it's on 10 combs, or 11 combs, doesn't necessarily mean it's strong enough. It needs to have quite a lot of food, quite a lot of bees, quite a lot of brood in all stages. But that's okay, because I'm told that some of you folk will be putting your supers on soon. You take them off. Now this colony may be super, doesn't matter at all. Now I can start late April or early May, whenever you get queen cells available. From what you folk are telling me, you'll probably be able to start halfway through April if you've got queen cells. So when queen cells are ready, they could be natural or artificial. Now don't forget, you can use the emergency impulse if you want to, but you really need to make sure that you've certainly got drones emerging before you start raising queens, or you've heard of several swarms locally. Right, this is what you do. From A, you get 2 empty nuke boxes, and you make up 2 nukes that we'll call B. You get both of them, 1 frame of sealed brood and bees. So they come out of A, and 1 frame of food. Now the food may come from another colony or a super used as a brood. Now that's what I say is cheating. I don't really think it's cheating because it's no different than feeding them. You've got to give them food from somewhere. So, I hope you forgive me. Now, those two need to be equal in brood and bees, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Fill up the nukes with drawn comb, exactly the same as my two-frame nuke. Now, not now, but later you need, after several hours, you need to give them a queen cell, or you could give them straight away if you protect them. It doesn't really matter. You please yourself as long as you know what you're doing. And then fill up the gaps in A with drawn comb. What I find is that you, the brood, just mix them up in the brood chamber. Don't put them side by side. Make sure there's at least one comb brood in between. Then you can split up brood with comb, that's fine. I wouldn't do it with foundation. So, then what you do is move the colony aside. Anywhere, it doesn't really matter, put it where you like, as far as you like. So, I would probably go back from me to that table over there, or even carve. Doesn't really matter. You can move it half distance if you like, whatever space you've got. Put the two nukes in its place. I tend to go just a little bit forward, only 6 inches or so, but quite frankly, it doesn't matter. Just an inkling I've got that works a little bit better. You need a gap of about a foot, something like that. That's all. Alright? So what happens is, out go the bees from A to forage, and they return to their old site together with the bees that are already out when you were doing the operation. And what they do, and this is why you need 2 hours left of good flying work. What should happen is they come back and they get shared between both nukes. But what you often find is that they will favour one. They'll favour one usually because one is perhaps fanning a little bit more than the other, so they'll come back to that one. So one gets absolutely stashed out with bees, and the other one is a bit weak. Now, this is why I mentioned 5 minutes ago, make them up equally with the same amount of bees, same amount of brood. Because if you're not careful, they will favour the one with the more bees and the more brood. Right, if this happens, I say adjust, all you've got to do is move that one this way, level with it, by literally that much. So back will come the bees to here. They've got the option of this one here, which is fanning a little bit, or this one out here, which is fanning a lot. They'll come out, they'll come back, and they'll start to come into here. When these are fanning equal to that one, then move that one back to there. And what you'll find, it usually takes about more than that, 20 minutes. And what you'll find is that they will then equalise out, and you can walk away and leave them. If you want to learn about bees, then watch them. But if you're standing here somewhere, you're a marker that they don't recognise, and you may cause some problems. So just let me go with it. Alright, now when they're settled, so after perhaps a day or so, you can move them both a little bit. But the first time you do it, just move them literally a foot or 8 inches, equal amount each way, till you get sort of that far apart. And then you can move them 3 feet. Otherwise, again, they will tend to favour one. You need to be careful because you've got 2 queen cells in there. Let's say they emerge in a day. Another 5 days to get sexually mature. So let's give it a couple of days safety. So after 4 days, don't move them. So you can move them 6, 8, 10 feet each way, so you can have one over the wall and one here in that time. You'll be fine. And then move them where you are. Right, wait just a minute. Yeah, right. Then at that point, don't move them again until the queens have started laying. Once they started laying, they're not going to go out to fly again. So then you can move them where you like. You then, in the meantime, allow A to recover. If you've got a fairly strongish colony, 2 weeks is okay, but if you want to be safe, perhaps 3 weeks, something like that. Right, then what you do, you move A, you can move it anywhere. I always move it back because I'm then just using two stands in my apron. Guess what you do? You put 2 nukes, C, in that place. Think what you've done. In 2 weeks, you've gone from 1 colony to 5. That quick. Right. B will then, perhaps a couple of 3 weeks later, will be in full boxes. So you allow them to build up as they are. You can move C in exactly the same way as you did B. Now, because B are filling up boxes, you can split them up in any way you like. You can do all sorts of things. You can make 2 frame nukes with those. You can split them up into 2 5 frame nukes. You could just literally move them away and put some other nukes in their place. You can do loads of different things. When you remove cones from anywhere, just replace with empty cone, not foundation. So, what do they see here? All your B's here, all your A, doesn't really matter. Always replace with empty cone if you've got it. Now, there's many variations, and here's one. Both B's can be moved, and then nukes D can be put in place. So, oh yeah, here we are. So this avoids losing flying B's from A. You're now losing flying B's from B. So perhaps you've taken your 2 nukes out of there, you've left that in its place, moved them over to there, move B away, so that B's from B fly out, come back to D, and you've got another couple of nukes. So, you know, there's lots and lots of things you can do. Right, this is how we start. There's my nuke boxes, just 2 frames out of a main colony like that. Fill it up with cone and away you go. And here's one that was several years ago now. There's 2 nukes that are probably 3 days away from being made. So you can see they've moved apart a little bit. There was the remains of the stand of the first, the original colony, which had been moved over here somewhere. I can't remember where on this particular one. Could have been on the other side of the apron, I don't know. But look what we got behind here. We've got all our other mating nukes as well. You know, right away from what we're doing. You can see what time of year it is, look. I think it's May blossom there. Right, now, this last summer at Whisper Green teaching apiary, I got so fed up going around places and beekeeping associations saying, oh, we can't produce enough nukes for beginners. I came across one that did, bought in 35 nukes for beginners every year. Another one bought in 50 nukes for their own beginners. So, although I've been doing this sort of thing for years, I did it last year at Whisper Green as an experiment, just to see what would happen. Okay, it was only 1 year, which happened to be quite a good one anyway. So we demonstrated the method, and the result was we got 11 colonies that were strong enough to go into 2018-19 winter from one that came out of the previous winter. We could have had more, significantly more. So this is partway through the season. I suspect this was early July, but I don't really know the age of the photograph, the date of the photograph. That's the parent colony there. Now that includes supers, 2 supers. And we would have put 2 nukes in the place of that one. The previous stand rather. That had come from over here somewhere. So this little area is all the space we needed, which was, from that door across this little area here, something like, you can see how big it is. So you don't need much space. Once you get further down the line, you can end up splitting the nukes up. So those 2 on the outside, that one and that one, they were strong nukes, so we just brought them closer together. The usual sort of thing, 3 feet at a time. Not that that matters too much, because bees will go quite a bit further than that if you work things right. So just place a centre box in the middle, empty box. So we took 1 frame of brood from each, plus a frame of brood, plus a queen cell. So then fill these up with empty comb, and then move the outside nukes away. So of course what they did, flew out, came back, couldn't find that area, so I just went straight in there. And that is no burden on the main colony at all. This system works absolute treat. Here's the 9th of July 2018. We've got the main colony there, which had been moved back, and I suspect it was a little bit after, a couple of weeks after the previous photograph, because there, I think, are the 2 nukes that were put in its place. The other photograph was taken from over here somewhere. Right, there's 2 that have been built up into full colonies. And there are, I think, 8 nukes that have been made up. They're in the process of being shunted around and moved around for various reasons. So it's the 22nd of August, only 6 weeks later, we end up with 11 colonies rather. We've stopped doing anything now, probably early August was the time, so 3 weeks after finishing. All of those were strong enough to go into the winter, every one of them. We brought them together because queens are very often needed elsewhere. Sometimes a member's got a poor queen to go in the winter. Okay, we got some of the apiary, so perhaps this pair here, take the queen out of here, unite those 2 up. When we're teaching apiary, we're not doing this full time. So at the Whispering apiary in 2018, 13 nukes eventually were made. 3 of them had frail queens, so that's the sort of proportion that we're looking at, a quarter of them. Or over a quarter on that very small sample. Now the parent colony had a queen disappear in June. Remember what I said this morning? So we had an 8 to 10 day brood break. Now the thing about that is another round of nukes. So we missed out on that. That parent colony had produced 1 box of brood comb, because we got them building that out for the on the oilseed rape on the early session. What you saw, the 2 supers, was after we'd already taken a brood box of honey off. It had produced around about 80 pounds of honey. That's a fairly conservative estimate. and 11 colonies strong enough to go into the winter, which could perhaps have been 14 if we'd have done it quite as efficiently as we should have done. Down in Kent, on the first one of these we did, a lady at the end who deals in bees and queens and that sort of thing, she jumped up and she was she couldn't get it out quick enough, could she? She blurted it out. She said, do you realise, she said, at my rates that's £2,300 out of one colony. And what's the cost? Just a few frames and some foundation. Now, if you're a local beekeeping association, you tell me why you've got to go buy 35 or 50 colonies of bees. Right. How many of you folk are going to start selling nukes next year? I'll bet you all sell 11 of them. But seriously though, a simple thing like this, it doesn't half work. Is that successful? I reckon it is. So, why use sealed proof? I'm going to get clobbered here because I've already had somebody really launch into me. I say here it generates its own warmth. What I mean is that I've got no proof of this, but my guess is that because it's live pupas, that it's actually creating some of its own warmth. It's very definitely not creating anywhere near enough to keep the development going. It doesn't need as much effort from the bees to keep it warm as if it was unsealed brood. That's what I really mean. Okay? And I didn't get launched into it, so somebody just asked the questions. So it does need less bees to look after it, so perhaps if a few more fly home than you expect, it's not going to be the disaster that if it's unsealed brood, which may well get chilled. It doesn't need feeding because the feeding's already been done, so there's no burden on the colony at that point. And of course, when it emerges, as I already mentioned, you get laying room for the new queen. So the teaching benefits of this, if you do it in your own teaching as well, like think of the things that you can teach beekeepers. How to make up nuclei. Several methods. I've just shown you one or perhaps two. There's loads more you can do, even if you bring them in from other colonies, rather than just keep splitting up the same colony. There's lots of things you can do. I think you're going to have to do this tomorrow. Carl, hope you don't mind.
It'll be called the Collier method tomorrow.
Oh, well, right. Yeah, but then I know you've made it up. How about nucleus expansion? Remember what I said, that depending on how you make up the nuke, think you can work out how it's going to expand. So perhaps simple things, if you make up a 5-frame nuke with 1 frame of fruit and 4 frames of sealed brood, that is going to build up very, very much differently than if it's 1 frame of brood and 4 frames of unsealed brood. You can teach that. Adding and removing food and brood combs, where perhaps colonies that can perhaps afford it, those that can't, how you can feed or add bees to colonies. Milking off bees from one colony to another. So perhaps if you've got a really strong nucleus here, you can move that aside and put a weakish one in its place, and you can probably equalise them up a bit. You can show people how to use natural or artificial queen cells, how to put them in the combs, also where to put them. It's surprising the number of people that put queen cells right at the edge of a comb in a weak colony. They're just not getting the warmth. I haven't mentioned it much yet, but you can teach people how to do queen introduction. And that's something that a lot of people really don't know. Also, a queen's colony, how perhaps to detect one, how to get over one that's hopelessly queenless. Loads of things you could do, because with a situation like that, they're going to come up all the time. Also, the colony strength for wintering too, because you really do need strong colonies to overwinter. If they're weak, forget it. And uniting too. And uniting isn't, the only method isn't 2 sheets of newspaper, because otherwise you're doing uniting. That might fool you. You won't tell them that one, will you? You've also got small colonies, lots of them. So what can you use them for? The local gardening society, or the scouts, or whatever, or the cubs. You can get them in, handling bees, and they're quite weak. Now the great thing is, you move them the day before, and you've got no flying bees, so nothing to sting anybody, so you can get people handling bees. All sorts of little things like that will help a local beekeeping association. And I just put up a few, you can come up with an awful lot more. So other benefits of beekeepers associations then, it's great, supply of queens. Because that last method I showed you, if you think about it, if it takes 10 days for a queen to lay up, 8 or 10 days for to lay up 4 frames, you might as well take her out, because there's nothing else for her to do. You can then put in a queen cell, and away you can go. By the time that queen has emerged, you've got a mated queen, and she can lay up the rest of the frames. Loads and loads of things. You know what's going to happen now, don't you? Tomorrow there's going to be a whole load of apiary managers, all resign. That bloody Patterson man, he's go and poke up with him. You've got queen mating nukes. And if you can get those 2 frame nukes early in the season, you can usually get 3 or 4 queens out of each one in the season. So you can use them for nukes, for mating queens, to sell to members, or give them away, or whatever you want to do. You've got the opportunity of cutting down the stock too. So if some aren't too good, you can do that. Everything's on new comb, isn't it? Everything. All new comb, 12 months old, or less. You've got nukes for beginners, so you can sell to them, or perhaps to sell on the open market if you want to. Why not make up winter losses before they happen? Why not? Why do people wait till the spring before making up winter losses? If you know you're regularly get 10, 15, 20%, whatever, winter losses, why not make them up before the winter? What's it going to cost you? Perhaps varroa treatment, and that's it. You know, you haven't then got to break up colonies in the spring. Low cost. Good local stock. Hopefully. Now, we need early queens, or some people say they do, partly to make up for winter losses. But why do we have winter losses? Okay, we've got varroa these days, which doesn't help matters, but personally I think a lot of them, sorry for this, but I think a lot of them are probably lack of care. Perhaps not enough food, keeping them in damp conditions, not putting the mouse guard on, not making sure the roof don't leak, all sorts of things like that. Or perhaps people are using queens that can't stand the winter. Perhaps imports. And of course starvation, because they eat everything that they can see and just turn it straight into fruit. Unfortunately, a lot of beekeepers replace bees that don't survive the winters with more stock that don't survive the winters. Well, the answer is put more colonies in the winter, surely. As I've already mentioned. Any surplus you've got, unite in the spring. Why do we always unite in the autumn? Okay, it's sometimes you've got weakish colonies, you try and put the whole lot together. But if you've got any surplus, let's just unite in the spring, not in the autumn. A lot of people are beginning to have quite a bit of success with overwintering queens in mini nukes. They're apidea type things. I haven't done any, but those that do tend to do multiple boxes, 2 or 3 boxes rather than a single box. They just can't seem to retain enough heat apparently. And overall, I think we need better management needed. Sorry folks, but I think we as a whole beekeeping community, we must work much more on this. So overwintering nukes, not just overwintering for the sake of the bees, but the queen as well. Needs to be strong in bees, so the frames I showed are well covered with bees, they're fine. We could give them frames of sealed brood in the autumn, so perhaps before your varroa, which usually puts a queen on play, just before then, if you give 1 frame of sealed brood to each nuke at that point, think what you've got. You've effectively got 3 frames of young bees. So don't be frightened to move combs or bees around. Make sure they've got enough grub. Somebody, I can't remember who it was, spoke to me, I think it was lunchtime, about ivy honey. We're all beginning to get that problem. It granulates, and of course the bees don't get it because they can't use it. Well, if that's all they've got, they're going to die even though they've got plenty of food on them. So you've got to try and make sure that you've got some syrup in. So the trick is to feed quite gently. Feed gently. What it also does is divert the bees to go out and get pollen. So of course you get the pollen in there as well. It's not just brood that needs pollen, the bees need it as well. So of course that's something else they're storing for the winter. Make sure the queen's good, and that she's laying good brood, and I mean late. And I check mine now. I never used to bother after September. Now I'm checking these right into November, sometimes December, because it's surprising how much they will fail later in the season. So inspect, of course, for queen problems later in the year, and of course keep them dry. These are a couple of mine. If they're strong as that, would be okay. Place them together because they've got help if needed. So perhaps 1 queen goes down in November, let's say, you can unite those. Now, information and help sources. Remember, I've got some books and booklets over there. There are more to come. There are some currently that are out of print, but hopefully, fingers crossed, we're going to get them back in. Don't forget Dave Cushman's website. There's a monumental amount of information on there. There's also a page to help beekeeping associations to increase. There's probably a lot of courses going on. You've probably got some locally. Certainly at BIBBA nationally we have. But I should be aware of any standard queen rearing books. That, and when I say standard, the usual sort of things that people push in front of you. Because often they're written perhaps by Americans, nothing wrong with Americans, but the methods they might use, if somebody's perhaps raising 20, 30, 50,000 queens a year, aren't the same methods that you would use. So they need to be something that's suitable to the UK, and some are way advanced for what we actually want. Principles of Machine Improvement by Joe Widdicombe. Have you sold them all, Carl?
No.
No, there are some other. There are some over there. That book is, in my opinion, brilliant. It's the only one of its type, and it covers absolutely everything in simple terms that everybody can understand. Well, I can understand it, so I'm sure you can. We've got some 1 and 2 day courses on the go. Improve your bees by rearing your own queens. At the moment, it's just one set up in North Wales, and there's 12 places, and I'm told there's 8 taken already. Is that Carl?
9.
9 already.
On the
Well,
first
you're
day.
going now, yeah?
9 gone on the launch day.
Not 9 gone, and it's only just come out. So that's how popular these are. They're both practical and theory. We've obviously got to get our skates on with some more for 2019. If you'd like one in this area, just ask us and we'll get something set up for you. Have a look on BIBBA website. We've also got a little electronic newsletter called BIBBA Hum. If you just sign up for that, you'll get your information. So, what is available locally? Is it a good starting point? I don't know, without having a look. I came to Exeter a couple of years ago, and I thought some pretty useful bees. So, I'm not saying just the Exeter site. There may well be others as well. Has it adapted to the area, or is it something that somebody just brought in the last year or two? It needs to have been here and proven itself for several years. And will it survive well in the winter? That is the key. Some of them, they just turn up their toes and say they've had enough. Now, you individually may have said to the bees, don't discard them just because you think, or perhaps somebody else thinks, I'll get rid of those and add mine. They're doing it for a reason. I wouldn't get rid of your colonies that quickly. One suggestion is that you develop the bees in your area. I suspect you've probably got some reasonable stuff. What happens is when you parachute queens in, you often get problems. So, of course, what happens is it results in more being parachuted in, which is causing more problems, and so on. And there's been so many areas that I come across, and people's breeding program has been absolutely wrecked by somebody doing something that's not in anybody else's best interest. So, when you bred the queen that produces that, and there's eggs in every one of those cells, bar one, and there's 2 eggs in. Go back to this morning when I said that there's a problem with that comb with eggs and larvae of all ages. That's what it should look like in virgin comb. The other one was clearly a problem. That queen's okay. And there's the queen. She's not clipped, but she's marked. You can feel really satisfied, proud you've done something yourself, rather than just got a commodity off the shelf that you ain't got a clue anything about the characteristics. You don't know whether you can keep on a single brood chamber, double brood chamber, whether it's going to know you to your shed or whatever. So, summary of what we've done today. We've given you some background information, a bit about the importation and perhaps the teaching of beekeepers. Hopefully encourage the increase of knowledge by observing things, bit of lateral thinking, giving you some information sources and the possible roles of local beekeeping associations. A little bit about the bees, their differences, different characteristics too, and some brief colony selection techniques. Okay, there's several more to go, but it's only a start. And then some practical suggestions to beekeepers and beekeeping associations, perhaps the use of different use than perhaps the teaching apiaries, how they can produce bees and queens simply and cheaply, and possibility of using them for fundraising as well, because you can soon increase your funds if perhaps you need a new shed or a new honey extractor or whatever. So it just remains for me to thank a few people. Exeter Beekeeping Association, or Beekeepers Association, whatever you call yourself, for hosting the event, setting it up, doing all that work. Kathy Munch was behind most of it, I think. Well, I hope so. Well, she said she was. Carl Collier, who's the clown down at the back, who's set all this lot up for you. And he's flogged you a few books. Well done, Carl. Have you beat the record yet?
Nope.
No, miserable lot. You horrible lot. You're all mean. Anyway, Carl really has done an awful lot. A lot of publicity and bookings and all sorts of things like that. They help us on the day at the back, and I guess these chairs will put out by somebody, and I guess they're going to be put out by somebody, put back by somebody as well. And great thank you to you folks for listening, and from Nell, thanks for having me.